So Halloween was done was that done at Trax or was that done in London?
I don't think the original tracking was done at Trax, but that's when I met Al, and that's when I became familiar with Wax Trax with Jim and Danny. And from that point on, it just kept going and going and growing and growing. And yeah, Halloween was where we started. That was our starting point. It was a launching point for the relationship.
Did you have any kind of agreement with Jim and Danny as far as some of the excessive recording times that were going on through Al and some of the other Wax Trax artists?
Please don't charge us, please don't charge us.
When I first met Jim and Danny, it was after Al came in, obviously, because Al came in as an artist, and I really was not familiar with the store or what was going on, and within a short period of time, all of a sudden I was friends with these people. We're all hanging out and doing things together, and music kept happening, and it just kept emerging and kept growing, and the scene kept growing, and it was just an amazing time. Jim and Danny just gave Al and all the artists the freedom to do what they wanted to do, which was unheard of in the record industry, period.
Yeah. But I mean, they would go on, I mean, the recording sessions there are insane. I mean, they would be there for like 30, 40 hours, weren't they?
30, 40 weeks.
I mean, which is pretty unheard of for most independent labels. I mean, most independent labels would not give their artists that kind of carte blanche.
No, they wouldn't. And I think that there was a magic in really to Jim and Danny's, to say some of the best things about Jim and Danny that I could possibly say is they gave the artists the freedom to create. And there were no boundaries. And they would come in and they would love the stuff, and if they didn't like it, they would say it, and it would still come out, and actually, just an artistic freedom that no one else ever gave their artists, they gave them. And it was an amazing time. It was an explosion of great music.
Did you ever have to go to Jim and Danny and say, hey, some of these guys are getting a little out of control over here?
Are you kidding? Never! They knew that.
Chris, can you
he's not a baby, sir. Well, one of the things I have to say, I agree with Reed. One of the things I noticed early on with my relationship with Jim was if you came to him, or if a person came to him with a demo tape or something they'd recorded, and Jim thought it was too commercial, it really turned him off. Like, the weirder the better for him. He was disappointed if it was like, you know, not really strange. And so I realized at that time, I was like, yeah, we really can go and get into this and really explore and make it dark and, you know, have fun with it. And they're not expecting any revenue for some reason.
There were no boundaries.
There certainly were not.
There were no boundaries no matter what. And, you know, like when you mentioned going into the Wax Trax record store for the first time, you know, I don't know if I exactly remember going into the record store for the first time, but I remember being with Jim and Danny and being cornered and I think brought upstairs and hanging out, and it was just a hang. And everything was, there was this freedom of thought and creativity that progressively kept going on and on and on and created Wax Trax, the label, being its own label, its own self.
So, I mean, you had dealt with like mainstream record business guys. I mean, how were Jim and Danny compared to those kind of people?
Oh, completely different. You know, the mainstream guys, and we had to deal with them, you know, as well as some of the Wax Trax artists. They wanted full control of everything. You know, what are you doing? What are you working on? I don't like that song. Jim and Danny were not like that. You know, it was because of them that Wax Trax really happened. They allowed the artists, they gave them the artistic freedom to do what they wanted to do, and they did it. And they did a great job of doing it. And amazing music came out of all that insanity. You know, it was a controlled insanity up to a point.
Until it was uncontrolled. Ken, now you were working for the label kind of during the height of all this stuff, of the success and probably some of the madness too. And what were some of the things you had to come up against? Because you're basically dealing with two super fans more than necessarily businessmen.
We were. I think the most interesting challenge was when I got there. The funny thing was I had a completely different perception of the label from the outside until the day that I showed up to work there, and so it was kind of like, because it was I knew people involved and stuff, but I hadn't set foot in the office and hadn't seen it operate. And the first day I was like, oh shit. Like I was,
Well, and you probably brought in structure.
I did.
Some sort of like structure.
I did. It was,
and they were like,
it
"What
was
is
freaking
this?"
chaos. It was like, it was unbelievable. So, so when I came in, it was weird because there were 22 people working at the label when I came to work there, and we were like hemorrhaging money. We were like, we had 8 people in the promotion department. We had 8 people next door in the main office, and we had like 5 people in the warehouse. We were like, we were cramming.
Lincoln?
No, when we had moved to Damon. So, but we were that big. And then when the first like real Black Friday hit was, we laid off from 22 down to 4. And
I recently read something where payroll dropped from, oh God, like 12,000 a week to 2,700 a week.
and I was $2,000 to that. So I was like, no, kidding. Not really.
That was good money back then.
But I mean, the biggest thing was just like, having these records. Like we had the Thrill Kill record, we had Explosion coming out, and literally had no money. We were on credit hold with every magazine. Could not get a magazine to run an ad unless we paid them cash. Like, I mean, we were hosed. And I'm trying to hire independent people and trying to place ads and trying to buy ads in other markets. And I mean, it was just, the cash flow thing was really crazy. I mean, I've told stories and that were just like walking in on a payday, and like, I mean, just to give you an idea of the balance, like they literally were, Jim and Danny were sitting at the desk with all of the credit cards with Post-it notes of how much of a cash advance they could get on each card just to cover payroll. But like, in those days they were under so much pressure between the ministry deal, which was they had this L royalty deal that they had to hit these paydays, and then just the operations of keeping the label open. And the two of them was just putting this enormous stress on the label combined. So then while we were doing that, we're also trying to maintain the momentum of literally putting out Sexplosion, putting out Money, putting out What Time Is Love, like putting out Love Secret Domain, putting out these huge records, and with no money and just like on a hope and a prayer. We had, back in the day to do a promotion, I was telling somebody the other day the economics of it, we would do 8,000 copies of a promo record. And so if you think about the postage, the materials, everything, it was like $6 a package, like when you got done with everything. So it was costing us $50,000 to put a record out there in promotional expenses.
Free, $50,000
to
to
just give away
for free.
$50,000 worth of records. And then, we had one intern that I sent over to run postage, and I told her to run $2.40, and she ran $240 and ran all the postage off the meter in with 10 postage stamps, and it was like paralyzed the label for a month because it took that long to get the thing and I used to have to give Jim and Danny exactly how much money we were going to spend on postage, so they would go get it, and they would go and look at the meter and just to make sure that I was where I was at. And then so when she blew out my budget, she literally burned $2,400 of postage, and I was like, oh my God, we literally had records sitting there for 2 weeks that we couldn't send out because we didn't have the postage. So yeah.
Way to go, Ken.
That's management for you.
More child support laws.
But so Chris, and you were on the road probably a lot in this time, and Sean was on the road as a roadie. I'm sorry, tech.
Technician.
Tech. Sorry, totally different.
Yeah.
But were you
Flight
guys?
attendant.
So you guys weren't really having to deal with any of this madness. right?
No, I didn't. This is the first I've heard of it. Sorry.
Everything was fine.
So there wasn't. You didn't show up at the hotel and the rooms were canceled or anything like that.
No, I personally was oblivious to all of it.
Why? Why was
Because I didn't pay attention to anything that didn't directly impact me, and as nothing was impacting me.
High on drugs?
No. That's funny.
That funny one for postage.
I was touring a lot at the time, and I was behaving poorly, and these were my concerns.
Okay.
I don't know how you want me to expand upon that. in what direction
I
you
think
want
we
me to
covered
go.
it. I think that's
But
good.
boy, oh boy,
Not his concern.
No.
the unsuccess of my records also wasn't my concern.
So Sean,